Two. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Welcome back to many of you. Welcome for the first time to others. Tonight we'll be taking questions and answers for some time. We welcome your questions. As a matter of fact, we encourage them. Without your questions, the whole thing, what do they call it? Grinds to a halt. So would any of you like to start by bringing up a question? I'm counting on you. I know that one of you deep down has an important question to ask.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. For the last few days, we've been talking about self-knowledge and vijnana, realized knowledge. And I guess from my perspective and on my bhakti path, I would like to learn more about absorption and some examples of what that could be. And also prema love and leading toward wanting to be getting back to Godhead. So these are the two areas that I lack clarity on, and I would just appreciate some of your wisdom on those. Thank you.
So absorption and ultimately love. Yes. And maybe you're drawing this from some classes that I've given before. Yeah. GV. Okay. So some few years back, I was asked to give a talk on the Bhagavad Gītā, like an extended course on it, which I had never done before. Like it was a 3-week course, meeting every day. I taught the Bhagavad Gītā for many, many years, but never extended like that. So I said, okay, this is great. And I went back and I read the entire Bhagavad Gītā again and really thought about it, because I was thinking, what is it that I want to present from it? 3 weeks really isn't even enough time to go through the whole thing, really. So what is it that I want students to walk away with it? What's the approach? And as I read it, something kept coming to me as I was reading it. I was seeing that any verse in the Bhagavad Gītā is speaking on one of 5 different levels. Pretty much any verse. Sometimes one verse will speak on more than one level, but in general, every verse could fall into a category, 5 different categories. Would you like to hear those categories? Yes. Yes, everybody? Yes. In the back, do you want to hear? Yes. Okay. So the 5 categories are duty, knowledge, wisdom, absorption, and love. These 5 categories. Duty, knowledge, absorption. Duty, knowledge, wisdom, absorption, love. And kind of like a ladder. This is kind of like a path of evolution for the soul that they can go through, that they can evolve through to the perfection of the self, which is the manifestation of complete divine love. Does that sound interesting? So I'll speak a little bit about each one. And you can think about this. And when you think about this, I know many of us here are spiritual practitioners. We take spiritual life seriously. It's a priority in our life. Yes, raise your hand if your spirituality is a priority in your life. Okay. Anybody not raise their hand? I'm just kidding. As I said, this is a safe space. So let's start with duty. Duty means that there's the right thing to do, right? It can come in so many different ways. What was Arjuna's duty on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? He was being informed it's his duty to stand up and fight. There's some evil people. They had done some really horrible things. He was the man that had taken vows to protect others. He had trained his entire life for it. He received payment for it. And now the time had come, and he was required to do his duty, his specific duty. Duty is something that's really important. I call duty the first step in mastering the mind. First step in yoga. Because duty, the mind is difficult to control. Most yogis, practicing yogis, are aware of this. Duty is when you begin to say, mind, I'm not going to listen to you. You want me to do one thing? That's okay. You may want that, but I'm going to do the right thing right now. Right? Sometimes we want to be irresponsible. We want to relax, kick back. But then we know, but there's an important duty, an important responsibility that I have. And so we tell the mind is saying, don't do that. Stay right where you are. Don't get out of bed. Right? It's very comfortable in the bed, and this is where happiness is, right here in this warm, soft bed. Stay where you are. But then because duty calls, then one says, mind, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to get out of the bed and go do this important duty. And that's when the mind kind of goes like, what? I thought I was in control. It appears you think you're in control. And it's kind of like you're beginning to make your claim. I will not be controlled by you anymore. So duty is the first step in mastering the mind. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. Duty is something that anyone practically can do. It's also something that one person can give to another. I became a monk when I was 21 years old. I was living in an ashram. And I was given right off the bat, here are your duties. This is the time you wake up. This is the time you go to sleep. These are the books you should read. And this is what you should study. This is the meditation that you should do. You should do for this amount of time every day. These are the different services that you should do. This is how you serve the elder monks. Like this, I was given so many duties. My day was laid out for me. Here's all. And fact is, anyone can do it. You can choose to perform those duties. Right? If someone put a gun to your head and said, do these duties, you could choose, okay, I'm going to do it. So duty is something like that. Right? One can choose it. Now the next step is knowledge. And Bhagavad Gītā speaks a lot about doing your duty, but doing it informed with knowledge. Knowledge of who you are. The Bhagavad Gītā says that if you understand 3 topics, if you really understand them, then you have what is called jnana, or knowledge. Right? 3 topics one needs to understand. Would you like to know those topics? Yes? Let me hear you. Yes. Okay. Very good. So those 3 topics are 1, the self, the soul, right? The spark of spiritual energy that is our real identity, ourselves. 2, the material energy. You can say our bodies and the world that we're moving through, right? Bhagavad Gītā is going to tell us so much about this. It's constantly shifting. It's essentially made of 3 different modes: sattva, rajas, and tamas. So much will be said about the material energy. So you have the material energy, you have the self, and the 3rd category is God, the supreme self, the Paramatma, like this. These 3 and how they relate to each other. It says that from the supreme, the other 2 come. The other 2 are energies of the supreme. The self is an energy of the supreme, and the material energy is also an energy of the supreme. It said that the self is made of the exact same energy as the supreme, but it has a tendency to be covered, the potential to be covered, confused, bewildered by the material energy. Right? But it can also become free and reconnect to the supreme. The supreme never becomes covered by the material energy because it's its own energy. So like this, there's so much you can know about these 3 categories. But if you understand these 3 categories, yourself in relation to the world and in relation to the supreme, how all 3 relate, you have jnana, that is knowledge. And there's so much to study about that. Learning this knowledge is also something that one can choose to do, right? If someone puts a gun to your head and says, learn all this, or next week I'm going to kill you, then someone's going to say, I'm going to put everything else aside, I'm going to start to study, and I'm going to learn this. It's a choice that one makes. Okay, you with me so far? Now, all of that knowledge, for instance, the knowledge, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, that is important stuff to know, according to the yogis. And I may know it, I may have studied it, I may be able to quote verses establishing these points, but it doesn't mean that I've fully imbibed it, that it's become part of me, that I spontaneously see the world through that knowledge. You understand? It may not have matured in me. It may be something that I know in theory, it's book knowledge, but it's not something that has matured into me so that I live that knowledge spontaneously. Does that make sense? That platform we can call wisdom. In Sanskrit, they call it vijnana. There's jnana, which means knowledge, and there's vijnana, which means realized knowledge, matured knowledge, or we could call it wisdom. This is a whole nother level. Wisdom is not something that you can just put the gun to someone's head and say, become wise. You understand? That's something that has to mature within one. It's more than just a choice. It's a choice to pursue it. But duty is, I'm going to do it today. Knowledge, I'm going to learn it today. But wisdom is something one has to cultivate. One has to aspire for. One has to practice and practice and practice and pray for it and ultimately be blessed that that knowledge matures to wisdom. Wisdom is a beautiful thing. When you have that wisdom, you move through this world very gracefully. The things that upset others, they don't upset you so much, right? The things that other people consider, oh my God, this is so important and it's rocking my whole world and I'm very upset. And for the wise person, they're like, actually, it's not so important. I don't think you're seeing this correctly. They can zoom out and see their life from a much broader perspective so that the things that seem very big when you're zoomed in appear very small when you're zoomed out. Someone said something bad about me. Oh, that could send our head for loops for days and days, worrying about it, upset about it, resenting the person, playing it over and over in our mind. Have you ever done this before? Yes? Play these loops. Someone said something about you that was unfair. Who has that happened to here before? Raise your hand if that's happened to you. Okay. Then did you have loops about it? Did you ever do this? There's a debate going on in your mind and everybody's watching you and you're explaining how wrong they are and how they've mistreated you. And whatever they say, everybody realizes that you're winning the argument. And then they say, yeah, you should apologize. Have you ever fantasized like that before? It never happens. It never happens. Let go. It's not going to happen. The yogis let go. Forgiveness is actually a real quality of the wise. The things that others can't let go of, the wise can let go of because they know the sooner that I let it go, the sooner that my mind is at peace. And this is not such an important thing. So I can let it go. I don't need to carry that weight of this resentment and these mental loops playing in my mind. I can let it go. Wisdom looks like that. I'd like to say that Bhagavad Gītā especially speaks about three different aspects, you could say. Three different perfections, you could say, of the wise person. Would you like to know what the perfections of the wise person is? The three different ones, according to Bhagavad Gītā? Yes? Okay. First one is called samatvam, even-mindedness. One's mind is even. If it's hot, if it's cold, they're not going up and down all the time. Here in India, you don't see very much snow. Right? Maybe if you go up in these mountains, you see some. Right? But in New York, where I'm from, when there's going to be a big snow, it's like everybody's talking about it. The news is talking about it 24 hours a day. Oh my God, there's going to be snow, there's going to be snow, there's going to be snow. Then when it's hot, oh my God, it's so hot. Right? And then everybody's talking about how hot it is. How are you doing today? Oh my God, it's so hot, isn't it? Oh my God, this is so hot. I was up all night last night. It's so hot. When is this going to break? I don't know. I don't remember it ever being so hot. I know it's so hot. Right? I can't stand it. It's so hot. The even-minded person is like, I know that it's going to be hot. I know that it's going to be cold. I know that it's going to be in between. I know that the nature of the material energy is that it's always shifting. I know that people are going to say good things about me sometimes. I also know that sometimes people are going to say not so nice things about me. I know that that's just like the weather. It's going to go up and down. Bhagavad Gītā says, Matra sparshas tu kaunteya sitojna sukadukada agama payano nityas tangstitikshasva bharata. Be tolerant, Arjuna, right? Because The happiness and distress that we experience in this world, it comes and it goes like the winter and the summer seasons. One must learn to tolerate it, right, without being disturbed. Such a person that can do that, they become eligible for liberation. They become eligible for becoming free. Right? This is what wisdom looks like, even-mindedness, samatvam, really important. Repeat it again and again and again in the Bhagavad Gītā. All right, number one, even-mind. Sound good? Good to practice. Krishna says, samatvam yoga uchate. Such even-mindedness is called yoga. Right? People talk about doing yoga off the mat. You've heard that phrase before? If you want to do yoga off the mat, more than just the asanas, practice even-mindedness. This is real good stuff. Okay. Number two, sama is used again. Evenness, same. Sama darshana, seeing equally. This means when I look at all the creatures of this world, all the human beings, all the animals, even all the plants, wherever there's life, I can recognize that it's in different forms, and these different forms have different qualities. I can see that, but I also know that underneath the external forms, that there's a soul of equal quality within every living being. That's called samadarshana, right? Some bodies are tall, some bodies are short, some bodies are black, some bodies are white, some bodies are attractive, some bodies less so. Some bodies are from this place, some bodies are from that place. The person with the samadarshana, they recognize this person within this body is of the same quality of myself, the same spiritual essence. We are all, underneath it all, Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. It may be distorted by the external covering. It may be covered. But they know that it's there, and they respect everyone, and they treat everyone with respect. And when they go deeper, they even feel a love for every living being, despite all externals. Does that make sense? Not even just bodies. I'm going to take it deeper. You ready to go deeper? Not just the bodies, but even the mindsets. Because the mindsets are something that's temporary and always changing too. Right? We should take it for granted. The yogis think like this. That I've been man, woman, black, white, human, animal, plant, sinner, saint. I've been through all the different mindsets as well. Conservative, liberal, this, that. In all these incarnations, I've been all of these things. I shouldn't resent anyone, even if their mindset is warped. There are a lot of individuals out there with warped mindsets, yes? No? Yes. Okay. The yogi, they may object to the behavior, but they love the soul underneath still. Even if people commit horrible activities, they know that they actually feel compassion for the person. This is a most unfortunate condition. That a person's mindset could be so warped that they would actually harm others willingly. This is the most unfortunate person. They see like that. There's no hatred. There's no room for hatred. They see the spiritual equality, and they know. Sometimes, mothers can see that way. Sometimes there's like some mass murder or something up for trial, and everybody's looking at this person like this is the worst person of all time. Granted, they've done horrible things. But the mother's like, you don't understand them. You don't know them like I know them. Actually, they're a good person underneath it all, right? Well, the yogi is something like that. It's not that they're against justice or against the meting out of justice. But they also recognize that justice may need to be meted out, but I still love every living being underneath. Samadarshana, real important. Samatvam, samadarshana. Third one, anta sukha. Anta means within, the internal. Sukha means happiness. Internal happiness. My happiness is not dependent on any external object or even any external circumstance. My happiness is something that's within all along. This is the way a yogi thinks. right? Most of us are in conflict, battling over the limited resources of this world, worried that if we don't get this, that, or the other thing, it might be an object, it might be a certain type of wealth, it may be a lover, it may be a position in the world. We think, I need that to be happy. The yogi realizes my happiness is not tied to that. My happiness is not dependent on that. My happiness is something that I can choose to find within. And if I find that happiness within, again, peace of mind. Samatvam, samadarshan. You have that samadarshan, you don't have an enemy in the world. No tension, no hostility, right? So if my mind is even, whether it's hot, cold, people are saying good or bad things about me, if I see no living being as an enemy, if I know that my happiness is not tied to anything external, my mind can find tremendous peace. That's called wisdom. And when someone has that, they move through the world with grace. If you don't have that, you make a fool of yourself all the time. You're always in conflicts. You're always worrying. Most people worry about things that never even happen because they don't have that understanding of the self, right? If you look at comedy, you watch a comedy, okay? Go watch a film, a comedy, and analyze it, and you'll find that in most cases, what's happening in comedy is that the material energy is making a fool of someone. You'll see it again and again and again. That's what we laugh at. If we can laugh at ourselves being made fools of the material energy, we can evolve beyond being fools. You understand? I'm hoping for something and I think I need it to be happy, and then I think I have it and then I lose it. You know, that's kind of what comedy is all about. This gives us peace of mind. So we've gone from duty to knowledge. We're climbing up a ladder. Duty, knowledge, wisdom, right? This knowledge has to mature. How do we mature knowledge into wisdom? Yes, well, it's a practice, but what does the practice look like? And I'll share especially this, reflection. You hear the knowledge, and then as you go about your life, you reflect on that knowledge, especially in difficult times or even in pleasant times. Sometimes good things are happening and you have to reflect, you know what, this is good now, but it'll be good for some time and then this is going to go away. Am I ready for that? Will I be at peace when that happens? Reflecting on the knowledge. Sometimes difficult things are occurring in our life. We reflect. Right? We reflect on the law of karma. We reflect on our faith. We reflect on the knowledge. And by reflecting on it, it begins to mature. You reflect on it 1 time, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And the mind starts to get reprogrammed to see the world in that way. I've heard, I'm not expert on this, but I've heard that neurobiologists, they say that there are all of these, what do they call them? These connections within the brain. And they can only connect in so many ways. What do they call it? Synapses. And so if you keep reflecting and keep seeing something consciously, keep adjusting the way that you see something, then the synapses change and they reconnect in different ways and you begin to naturally, spontaneously see the world in that. This is what the yogis are practicing, right? Keep reflecting on the knowledge, let it mature in you. So there's practices that one can do for that knowledge to mature. There's also the blessings, right? You dedicate your life to God, Ishvara Pranidan, and when you do, this is Bhagavad Gītā. What is it? Tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam pritipurvakam, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, Krishna says. The Dami, I give them. The Dami buddhi yogam tvam. Unto them, I give them buddhi yoga. I give them the clear discernment, the clear yogic discernment. I give them that, by which they can come to me. Yena mam opiyantite. Right? So through reflection and through the blessings that one gives by dedicating their lives to God, this knowledge can mature into wisdom, and then the mind becomes peaceful. The mind becomes settled. You move through the world like a yogi. You move through the world with simplicity and with kindness, peace of mind. That peace of mind is really important. It's not the goal in itself. The peace of mind is not the end game. The peace of mind is the platform for which you can go much deeper into spirituality. Okay? When the mind becomes peaceful, then the next stage comes. Duty, knowledge, wisdom. Does anyone remember what the next one was? Absorption. Now you can actually absorb your mind. This is what meditation is, right? You have to have the ability to deeply absorb the mind. The idea is that in the spiritual objects of focus, the spiritual objects of our meditation, there's power, transformative power. In the mantra, there's transformative power. But our problem is that we lack ability to keep the mind absorbed, to deeply absorb it in the mantra. So we're not deriving, we're not receiving the full transformative energy of it. But with a peaceful mind, you can absorb it. You can say, this is where I want to focus it. And now I'm going to deeply focus my mind. You can hit this stage of absorption. So now we're getting to your question. We can call it unwavering meditative focus, right? This is so much in the Bhagavad Gītā is shared about this. And Krishna is saying, make me the object of your unwavering meditative focus. We were speaking about this a bit last night. How do I do that? Well, understand what's behind it all. I used one analogy last night of that musician who's behind so many records, and if you know it, you can hear it, you can see him behind it. Sometimes I also say, like, if you're walking down a city street, most people are seeing the surface. But a city engineer, right, they understand underneath the sidewalk what's going on, right? There's all kind of wires going under there, all kind of pipes going on under there. There's a subway system going on under there. They understand that all these buildings have foundations that go down. They're seeing what others don't see. And through hearing about the self, hearing about the material energy, and hearing about God, one can begin to see God behind everything. So in this way, one can be thinking of God whatever they see. When you see the sun, right? When you see the moon, when you see fire, when you taste water, etc., etc. 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gītā, 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gītā. A lot of fuel is there. A lot of content is explained as potentially being, potentially riveting one's attention on God, no matter where you're going and what you're doing. Bhagavad Gītā 10th chapter shows that all those things that capture our attention and tend to distract our mind, great things, powerful things, they can be, if one can see God behind it, then those very same things will bring our mind back to God. Right? So meditative focus. And when you get that way, you can also do that more traditional kind of meditation where you chant a mantra, sit peacefully, chant a mantra, and go deep into it. Then one will feel the transcendental benefit of it. It's so satisfying. So satisfying. Meditation ceases to be a chore, ceases to be a struggle, ceases to be a duty, right? Something that I have to do. And it becomes something that one has a taste for, and that one feels a transformation. By absorbing the mind in the object of Sri Krishna, the natural result, divine love develops. 4:11, please. No, 4:12. I think 4:12. Or just give me 4th chapter. Give me the whole thing, so I'll make sure that I get there. This path, letting go of the unimportant petty things through wisdom, getting a peaceful mind, absorbing it, and developing love. This is the Bhagavad Gīta's path. Listen to this verse. Where is it? Oh yeah, 10. Whoop. Verse 10. Excuse me. Chapter 4, verse 10. Lost my lozenge. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger. Okay, this isn't the only place in the Bhagavad Gītā where these three are put together. Attachment, fear, and anger. This was also mentioned in the 2nd chapter. Attachment, fear, anger. Being freed from attachment. When you're freed from attachment, fear, and anger, that's called the wisdom platform. right? When you've understood things as they are, you become detached. The things that used to make you angry, they don't make you angry, right? Being free from attachment, fear, and anger. Being fully absorbed in me. Okay? Once I've let go of attachment, fear, and anger, I can actually absorb the mind. Many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. With that peaceful mind, with a deeply absorbed mind, I began to not just theoretically understand God, but I began to know God. Right? They've been purified by knowledge of me. And thus, they all attained transcendental love for me. Okay? So he went up to wisdom, absorption, love. This is the path of the Bhagavad Gītā. That love, that prema, that's the goal of the Bhakti Yogi. Right? That's what there's very clearly set targets. Sometimes I hear people, they speak about yoga in ways that I feel are not actually so traditional, but are kind of influenced by more like a self-help new age kind of type of thinking. Sometimes they think that if there's a goal, then that's not yogic, right? It shouldn't be goal oriented. It's like it's all about the journey. It's not about achieving some goal. But if you actually read the yoga text, it's about focusing on the goal, about being very focused, knowing exactly there's in yoga. There's sadhana, there's the practice, and then there's the sadhya, the goal of the practice. And the yogi has a very clear goal in their mind, and they know exactly how the practice leads them to that goal. And for the bhakti yogi, the goal is very clear, and they can establish this as the highest goal. The Bhagavad Gītā will establish this as the highest goal. The highest goal is divine love. Focus on it. Go through be dutiful. He's telling Arjuna, be dutiful. You need to fight this battle. But do it well informed. Do it with knowledge of who you are, right? Let go of all of the petty attachments and attain to the platform of wisdom. Absorb your mind in me, and thus attain love for me. And by attaining love for me, you attain love for every living being. This is the path. Is that okay? Thank you. Thank you for that question. Is there another question? Such a nice group here. Yes.
You talked about the forgiving someone in the wisdom part, right? So how you truly forgive someone? Like, what's the Bhagavad Gītā way for?
Well, again, this is something that's the true forgiveness is informed by knowledge. Let's look at it. Let's look at some of the knowledge the Bhagavad Gītā shares with us. And not just the Bhagavad Gītā. We can look across the Upanishads and Mahabharata and Puranas and so on. In these texts, we're informed about the law of karma, right? That what I put out into the world comes back at me. We're given understanding about the Paramatma. When we say Paramatma, it means that Vishnu manifests in three ways to maintain the universe that we move through. Are you familiar with this? Right? The first is called Mahavishnu. If you take the entire spiritual sky, you could say that within that spiritual sky there's a bubble. The size of this bubble is beyond our imagination, and it's full of water. And within that water lies Lord Vishnu in a state of cosmic sleep. And from the pores of his body, with his breath, emanate unlimited bubbles of universes within the water. In his one breath, that universe comes out, and with the inhale, it comes back in. Right? His one breath is the length of the entire life of a universe. Okay? In each of those universes, Vishnu enters again, this time as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. He lies down on top of the water. From his navel grows a lotus flower. Upon that lotus flower is born the creator Brahma. And that Brahma, through his meditation, develops the yogic power to create. He begins to create planets, solar systems. He creates species, right? And And within all the individual members of those species, whether they be human, whether they be animal, whether they be plant, he enters as the third Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, enters the heart of every living being. The word Vishnu means one who penetrates, one who permeates, that he's everywhere, that he's not only within the heart of every living being, but he's actually within every atom, right? That means there's no space where his awareness is not. Just like our body is in a sense a universe, we are the soul within it, and our consciousness permeates our entire body. If you come and touch my little toe, I'm aware of it. My awareness goes there. If you touch the top of my head, I can feel it. My awareness is there. So similarly, this entire universe is a living body. And the soul within the universe is Lord Vishnu. And his awareness penetrates the entire universe. With that unlimited awareness and intelligence, he moves the universe. Right? He moves it in such a way where he delegates the karma to every living being. Brahma Samhita says, from the god of the heavens, Indra, down to a germ that goes by the name of the Indra Gopa. Right? From the most powerful being in the universe down to the smallest germ, every living being is receiving its due karma through the intelligence and the power of this Paramatma that permeates the entire universe. If that's the case, then what comes my way that I might feel the need to forgive someone for, I see it not so much as this person has done this to me, but this is my karma coming back to me. And if that's the case, why should I feel anger towards the agent of my own karma? You understand? So here's one way that it becomes easy to forgive. Why should I resent it? Why should I become angry about it when I brought it upon myself, even if it's coming in another form? Let me forgive. Let me forgive. This forgiveness, we think that it means we're letting the person off the hook and they don't deserve it. And because we bear some resentment, we're hesitant to. But what the yogis realized is that resentment is like carrying a heavy bag of rocks on your back. And you're trying to fly, right? You're trying to let go of everything and elevate yourself. And you got this heavy bag of resentments. And you're thinking, I'm keeping the resentment because that person deserves my resentment. But your resentment isn't really doing anything to them. It's really creating a problem for yourself. The yogis know it's too much weight to bear. I have too important a goal in my life to achieve this divine love. I can't have this heavy bag of rocks of resentment on my back. I'll just forgive. Right? I'll just forgive. And then they become free. They become light. Right? Without that, the spiritual life is going to be so difficult. Yogis, this is wisdom. Yogis aren't bothered by these things. People that are not so enlightened see the smallest insult as a mountain. It's such a big thing. The wise, they see it as tiny, insignificant. I've had the good fortune to live with some very wise people. Sometimes they've been mistreated or insulted. And other people say, look what they did to you. This is so wrong. They're like, oh, it's okay. It's not so important, right? That's the way a wise person, that's the way yogi thinks, like that. You become free this way. So like this, the ability to zoom out, this is key. Change your perspective. Things that we see big, when we zoom out, this is a blip in time. Why should I become so upset with it, right? This is how yogis think. This is how they become free. You know, sometimes people say they do these psychedelic drugs and they say, wow, it gave me a whole new perspective. And that's okay, but that comes and then it goes. But if you study these texts, hear them from realized people, see how they live them, and reflect on that wisdom on a daily basis, that change of perspective becomes something that you can call on at any moment. It's with you all the time. It's not like you have to take a pill and then it goes away and then you feel some side effects. It's something that you're always carrying with you. The yogis had that perspective. They had that ability to see from the zoomed in perspective, see from the zoomed out perspective. There's a chapter in the text of Srimad Bhagavatam, where the whole chapter, you read it and it sounds unusual. It's talking about measurements of time. The title of the chapter, I think, is Calculation of Time by the Atom. Right? And it says that the amount of time that it takes the sun to cross over one atom, they give that amount of time a name. I forget what the name of it is. And then they say if you multiply that by 16, then you have like another measurement of time. And if you multiply that by another this, and you multiply that again, then you come to what we call 1 second. Right? And then you multiply a second by 60 and you have a minute. You multiply that minute by 60 and you have an hour. You multiply that by 12 and you have a day. And then you add a 12 to that and you have a full cycle of a day and a night. Right? So now they've done all these calculations. What are you getting at? Then they calculate up to the year and the century. And they keep going and they keep going. And they keep expanding until you get to the lifetime of Brahma. Okay, this being that's living on this super high planet that lives for the span of an entire universe. And we realize that the size of that, the span of that time is so vast that my mind can't even wrap around it. Does anyone know how long Lord Brahma lives? Some 300 trillion years or something like that. I mean, it's some math. It's just a number at that point. We really can't think of what it really means, right? And then we're like, okay, well, why are we being told this? And then it says that even the life of Brahma, that incredibly long span that we can't wrap our heads around, is just one breath of Lord Vishnu. If this is the case, why should any little thing, how can we see it as big? I'll share a story. Tomorrow is the Tirubhav of my Guru Maharaj, the anniversary of his passing away. So this is a story from his life. That in the early days of the Krishna consciousness movement, the temples that they had in the United States, they were just storefronts. They weren't real buildings. They were just like a little storefront that people would come to and they would do Kirtan and read Bhagavad Gītā. And the first one began in 1966 in New York City. And then they got one in San Francisco, and then one in Boston, and then one in Montreal, and like this, these little places sprung up. But I think by 1968 or so, they got like a real church building in Los Angeles, and that became kind of like the real first temple. And that temple had many people living in it, and it had to have management, it had to have a treasurer, it had to have a president, it had to have a vice president. All of that kind of institutional concerns came in. And my guru was an expert manager, and so he was involved in that management of that temple. And Srila Prabhupada spent a lot of time living in that temple at the time. And there's, as soon as you get involved in institutions and management, there's so many headaches. And so my guru went to Srila Prabhupada, and he began to express all the headaches that he was experiencing and all the problems that were going on, and why this person shouldn't be doing this and this person's doing that and it's really not helpful and this person's giving me a hard time. All these things. And then Srila Prabhupada said, he pointed to a painting on the wall. And that painting is the cover of the Srimad Bhagavatam's first canto, which shows the vast spiritual sky, everything that I described. That bubble, which is the material realm, Mahavishnu, all the universes coming out. Within that universe, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So he starts describing this all. There's an unlimited spiritual sky. And then there's the universe. And then within this universe, we can't even calculate where it ends. And within this universe, there's unlimited planets. And amongst those unlimited planets, there's one planet called Earth. And on that planet Earth, there's so many square miles of land and with more living beings than we could count. And within that earth, there's so many cities, and one city is called Los Angeles. And within Los Angeles, there's one street called La Cienega Boulevard. And on that street, there's one temple, the Hare Krishna temple. And in that temple, there is Tamal Krishna, that was his name, and he is thinking he's very important. Right? So this is how the yogis zoom out. And when you zoom out like that, nothing of this world should shake us up too much. The things that bother us and annoy us and disturb us, we can learn to let them go. This is a yogic perspective. Okay? Wonderful. Thank you. Another question? I'm going to wait here patiently. I know there's a good question out there. I'm eager to hear it. It's rising up in one of you right now. At least I hope so. How about you, Cersei? You got a question? Not tonight. Question about Bhagavad Gītā. Question about reincarnation. Question about what is this Kirtan all about? Question. Yes, here we go, Vishal.
A little out of context of what we are, but it's part of Bhagavad Gītā anyway. So in one of the verse, I think chapter 4, 21 verse or something, it is said that you have to sit doing yoga on a clean place and preferably on a deer skin or a lion skin. And we talk about non-violence and vegan food. Somehow Lord Krishna himself saying that you should sit on a skin of a deer. I don't know, there's some confusion, although our mind is perhaps not as potent as to understand the inner depth of it, but nevertheless, there was this question in my mind.
This is 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gītā, where the instructions for Ashtanga Yoga are given, that you should go find a secluded place. And then you have to create your asana, your sitting place. Just like I did here, I laid this down, then I laid that down, and then you sit. Because when you're going to meditate, you need to sit steadily. And they would say that the yogi should sit on a deer skin upon which they place kusha grass. So one might think, oh, poor deer. But the fact is that every deer does die. So it doesn't need to be killed. Eventually every deer dies, and eventually that skin can be used. So the yogis wouldn't kill the deer, but they would be given the skin of a deer that had died. Why sit on the deer skin? I'd imagine it's warm, but I've also heard that the snakes don't cross the deer skin. So one less worry while you're sitting there. You can just let go that a snake is going to slither up on me. I could sit on my deer skin. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Vishal.
So in the same chapter, I believe, or maybe some other chapter, Lord Krishna says that he describes out of the trees I am this, out of animals I am lion. And very surprisingly, he says, now knowing that Vishnu came as incarnation, or rather Krishna is the incarnation of Vishnu, and so is Lord Ram. I've heard, I don't know. So if that is true, then he says of all the gods, it is Indra, I am Indra. And of all the warriors, I am Ram. Whereas it should be perhaps Ram is again incarnation of Vishnu, is equivalent of Krishna. So why would he associate Ram with warrior and not with being God? And why Indra, who's a demigod, is God? I mean, just a little confusion.
So you're speaking of the 10th chapter of the Gita. And the 10th chapter of the Gita in Sanskrit is commonly called Vibhuti Yoga. A type of yoga that focuses on what's called the Vibhutis. So Vibhutis are like opulences that we see in this world. Beautiful things, powerful things, extraordinary things. These are called Vibhutis. And what Krishna is saying is that any Vibhuti that you see, any opulent, glorious, wonderful thing that you see, at the end of the chapter, he's going to say, know that it is but a spark of my own splendor. Okay? So again, he's giving us a way that we can develop this unwavering meditative focus. That wherever we look, rather than be distracted, rather than have our awareness taken away from God, it can be riveted to God. So he begins to go through a series of vibhutis, of wonderful things, right? That will make us remember him, that can aid us in remembering him. So he speaks about the devas. Well, of all the devas, I am Indra. Indra is like the king of the devas, the most powerful of the devas. When the devas fight the asuras, It's Indra that they all depend on because he's so powerful, right? Very beautiful, very opulent. Indra's kind of at the top, right? So wherever you see that most thing, that thing's at the top, Krishna's saying, think of me. Don't let that take you away from me. Understand that I'm behind it. Right? Now Ram says, amongst warriors I am Ram, right? So Ram was the greatest of warriors, the greatest archer. He took down, none of the devas could defeat Ravana. It took Ram to do that. Right? So when you see Ram, you think of Krishna. Right? Now, you were saying that Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu. This is a big question. Okay? There's doubts about this. Is Krishna an incarnation of Vishnu, or is Vishnu an incarnation of Krishna? So, Vyasadeva knew that there were doubts about this, knew that there were questions about this. And so he very intentionally wrote one text called the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he took pains to clarify this, wherein he described Vishnu, then he described all the different avatars, and then he said, Ete changsa kala pungsa, Krishnas tu Bhagavan Svayam. All the previous mentioned incarnations are portions or plenary portions. Plenary portions are portions of plenary portions of Svayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Svayam. That they all come from Krishna. Now that's an interesting idea, because when we think of Vishnu, he fits the characteristics of what we think of when we think of God. He's maintaining the universe, he's everywhere, he's within everything. It's natural to think of him as God. He's got 4 arms, right? He's approached with awe and reverence. Where Krishna seems different. Not necessarily what you think of when you think of God. He's kind of naughty, he steals, he lies, he cheats, he dances with the girls. He's always having fun. But let me ask you something. If you were all powerful, would you rather spend your time being responsible or having fun? It's not a difficult question. Huh? Right? Krishna has the ability to either expand himself in the form of Lord Vishnu, or to empower other beings like the Devas to maintain the material world. He doesn't want to be the judge. He's not concerned with being the creator. Maintaining it all is really not his interest. His only interest is love. Right? So he remains absorbed in adventures of love. He expands as Lord Vishnu. And Vishnu sometimes an analogy is used like this. You have a judge, right? A judge in a high court. Very powerful individual. And people recognize that power. So when he's in the courtroom, how does everyone address the judge? What do they call him? I don't know in India what they call him. What do they call a judge in India?
Abroad, I think it is my lord.
They say, my lord. In America, they say, your honor. Your honor this, your honor that. Everybody says your honor. Right? So they address him with reverence. Right? In that place, he manifests that power and manifests that reverence in order to maintain the court justice system. And he appreciates that respect. If someone does not show that respect, they're corrected. Then they have to show that respect again. Otherwise, he shows his power, and eventually they have to submit. Right? So that's like God. We think of God like that. Right? Respected, powerful, shown honor, ability to punish if need be, to restore order. Like that. But when the judge goes home and meets his wife, when he walks in the door and his wife comes to see him, does the wife say, your honor? The wife doesn't call him your honor. The wife says, honey, sweetheart, baby, something like this. There's terms of affection. Nobody calls the judge that in the courtroom. As a matter of fact, even if the wife is there, the wife will not call him sweetheart in the courtroom. But when he's at home, he shows his intimate side. Right? When the children come up, they jump all over him. You can't do that in the courtroom. And he'll even become the servant of the children. He'll get down on his knees and they'll climb on his back and he'll play like he's their horse, and they'll say, go over there, and he'll go over there. And then they say, go over there, and then he's going over there. Because he's controlled by their love. You understand? When you know that person, when you know the judge in the courtroom, you know the judge. But when you know the judge at home, you know the full judge. You know his full personality. That's Krishna. When you know Krishna, when you know Vishnu, you know God. But when you know Krishna, you know God incomplete. You know the full God. You know the sweet side of God. The origin of it all that is controlled by love. Not so much approached with reverence, but approached and controlled by the love of the devotee. So if we look carefully and study these texts carefully, we see Krishna is the origin of Vishnu. Krishna even says this in the Bhagavad Gītā. It's all there if we look for it. Sometimes we see it in another way because we're looking from a different perspective. If you look from the perspective that's outside of this universe, then you see Krishna expanding as Vishnu and entering into the universe as Vishnu. If you look at it from inside the universe, it appears that all the incarnations are coming through Vishnu. And so it's not difficult to conclude that Vishnu is the source of Krishna. Because like Vishnu's here all along, and Krishna just appears for a little bit. You understand? Right? So Lord Rama is an incarnation of Krishna that enters in. But again, he would appear to be... Vishnu's here all the time in the universe. So if you're looking from within the universe, it seems like all the incarnations are coming through Vishnu. It's kind of like this. Let's say you were the ambassador of India. I was the ambassador of America, and I live in India. Right? Or you're a member of the Indian government, and I'm the U.S. ambassador to India. Okay? And so we have meetings and we discuss things. And you say, you know what? I've noticed in America you have a really interesting... your energy department. I think there's a lot that we could gain from inter-sharing. I would really like to meet the Department of Energy, the Secretary of the Department of Energy from the United States. And then I would say, as the ambassador from the United States, I can bring that person here for you. And I could arrange that. I can make that happen. And you say, okay, great. And then as the years go on, you want to meet the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense and all these different... And I'm bringing them all to you, right? And then one day you might say, I would like to meet the President of the United States. And I might go to the President and say, I think it would be a good time for you to come to India and meet with the government here. And then the President would come. And then it would look like I'm the one that was empowered to make the President come here. But really, the President decides whether they want to do that. I'm serving the President, not the other way around. But if you have a perspective from inside India, it might look like I'm the powerful one making him come. But if you were outside of India, and in America, you would see, no, it's the President that sent the ambassador there and that chose to come at the invitation of the ambassador. Make sense? So Krishna and Vishnu is like that. Okay. Krishna is the full manifestation. It's when he's showing everything. Vishnu is when he's just showing part of himself. Krishna is when he's just showing his whole self, including his inner heart, fully. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Celeste.
This is quite a naive question, but I've always thought about it, and just off the back of your question, why are we called Vaiṣṇavas if Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That's one question that I have, but I have more.
That's a question that I can't exactly answer, but I can share some ideas. Because how that came about historically is something that I've never traced. It's something that a scholar might try to follow. And I would imagine that at times devotees of Krishna have been called like Krishnites and different things. Scholars have said these things. But again, it could be because it's an inner universal perspective. It could be that there are Vaishnava lineages that go so far back that were more focused on Vishnu, but that within them developed, like for instance, within our lineage, which comes down from Brahma and goes through Madhva, it was previously more focused on Vishnu, but at a certain point in its evolution, Krishna Bhakti became prominent. And the same could be said for the Kumar lineage, that when Vallabha entered that lineage, Krishna devotion became more prominent over devotion to Vishnu. So although it's in a Vaishnava lineage, now Krishna devotion has become more pronounced. So it could have something to do with that. But in any case, it's all Vishnu Tattva, we say, right? It's all the same category of being. Okay. Another chance. Do you have a question written down in that journal right there? Are you sure? Okay. Okay. That's fine. Yes, we're looking for a good one. Here we go. I'll send the microphone your way.
So, I'm also from America, and this is my first time in India. And a lot of local Indian people that I've met have mentioned how excited they are that India is moving towards the West. And coming from America and being here for the first time, I'm just like amazed of how spiritually free India still is compared to the West. Or, right? That'd be all right. And so I'm asking you, I guess, on a personal level, do you feel as if that is really happening? Or do you think it's emerging? Because I almost see it as emerging. I see a lot of Westerners coming here to experience this life. And I'm hearing from a lot of local people from here that they want to go to our side and experience our life. But coming from our side, I'm like, oh, you don't even know how good you have it, how free you are. And I guess it's just like a moral question of, is it emerging? Is it a freedom that we are? Or do you think that this is just all the divine path, which it all is, but yeah, you get my drift.
Thank you for that question. What is your name? Lena. And where are you from, Lena? Okay, from Florida. So, one great yogi, Bhakti yogi, the guru of my guru, the founder of the Krishna consciousness movement, Srila Prabhupada, he spent a lifetime preparing to go to America. When he was, I believe, 22 years old, just out of college, he met a sadhu, a great sadhu, a brilliant sadhu. And that sadhu immediately told him, you should take these teachings of Bhakti Yoga and share them with the Western world. Right off the bat, before they even began to talk. And as he began to hear more from that sadhu, he began to develop great faith in him. And that instruction that he was given, he held it in his heart. And he prepared himself for the mission to go to the West. That was when he was 22. He left for the West when he was 70 years old. He set foot in New York City as a 70-year-old man. 70. So it was nearly 50 years he was preparing himself to bring this message of bhakti. It wasn't easy. He had to take he didn't come like by flight. He had to go by boat. And it wasn't like a passenger liner. It was like a cargo ship. And he was old. And he actually had a couple heart attacks on that trip. And but because his guru has asked him to do this, he had this great determination to bring the teachings of bhakti. And he had one dream on the ship that Krishna reassured him, I'm running the boat and you're going to get there safe. So that gave him the faith to carry on. And he arrived in New York City and began the mission of teaching Bhakti in the West. Without any help, without any money. It was a really bold move. But he had tremendous success. There was a generation of young people that took interest. And then he brought them back. He brought them back to India. So he had a lot to say about this relation between India, the United States, or you could say the West. Which one's more advanced? Should one be trying to emulate the other? And he kind of saw good strengths with both, but weaknesses with both. And he shared an analogy, a very interesting analogy, and I think you might find it interesting. He said that sometimes you have a lame man, and then you also have a blind man. The lame man can see, but he can't walk. The blind man can walk, but he can't see. Right? But if the lame man gets up on the shoulders of the blind man, then together they can work together and they can really move forward. Right? So he said, materially, India's lame. Right? Especially then, it was much less advanced. Now it's rapidly trying to catch up with the West. It's moving very fast. This is your first time to India. This is about my 40th time to India. So I've seen it over the past nearly 4 decades rapidly change. Whereas in the West, these changes happen more gradually. Here they're happening very rapidly, and the infrastructure practically can't even support it. Right? Yeah. So he said that India materially is lame, but he said, but spiritually, it's very advanced. Right? And he said that America materially is very advanced, but spiritually is lame. And so he said, if the two can cooperate together, if you take the deep spiritual wisdom of India and you combine it with the material technological advancement of America, then together it could spread the wisdom of the spiritual tradition around the whole world. That was his vision. That's what he wanted to see. And so he took Western followers back to India that were practicing Bhakti Yoga really well. Really, here they say pakka. Really like doing it really nice. And it was a sensation all over India that, wow, these Western people who we thought they were more advanced than us, we thought we needed to be like them. And they're coming back to us and saying, you have the treasure here. Don't forget it. There's something very valuable that you have here. So this is kind of a lot of what this festival is right here. It's a combination of both Western advancement and Eastern advancement coming together to try to do something very beautiful. Sometimes I come back to India and I see how the Western influence is becoming so strong, I feel pain in my heart. Sometimes it's hard to see. Sometimes the first days I come back to some of the holy places, I'm almost grieving a little bit. And then after some time, I begin to feel that spiritual presence is still here. It won't go away, right? But I've dedicated my life, and many others have dedicated their life to helping make that combination work. To helping using whatever technological advancement is out. I do like a podcast. Do it every day. It's all Western technology. But it's called Wisdom of the Sages. And but what are we sharing there? We're sharing the Indian wisdom, the ancient Vedic wisdom, the knowledge of the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. We read from it every day. And we see that we were fortunate that our podcast got like a big bump right at the beginning. And so it got thousands of listeners right off the bat. And we've seen that those listeners, we've actually heard their testimonies. Even some of our episodes have been them sharing how the wisdom of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the wisdom of Bhakti Yoga has transformed their life. They're normal people with normal jobs and going through the same kind of struggles in life that we all go through. And especially the struggles of the Western world. because the way, even to some degree in India, some of the cultures still maintain where families live together, and in the West they're always breaking up, right? And people suffer. They suffer emotionally from it. In so many ways, so they struggle in the workplace, they struggle in the family life. There's so much struggle, and they're saying that the wisdom of the ancient Indian Bhakti Yoga tradition has given me the tools to process what I'm going through, help me be a better person, help me grow and evolve going through it. And if I didn't have this, I don't know where I would be. So we can combine these two. There's a real beautiful art to this. Our Srila Prabhupada demonstrated it, and he kind of brought up a generation of people following, and now a next generation is coming up of combining the two. So I think that's a nice way to see it. Is that okay? Let me give you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And, but I feel that it is combining, and I feel that it's a strong wave of merging of collective energies from here and there, and there is a lot of the Western that is waking up finally, and all the starseeds being born now already with this knowledge in their brains and everything. It's super beautiful to witness in my life. I am only 24, but I am blessed to have the vision and the realizations that you were talking about yesterday. I noted those down in my notebook. But I'm blessed to be able to have those realizations so early in my life, and I want to be able to share that as well from being there with my local community. And yeah, thank you so much.
We were earlier discussing different perspectives, zoomed in perspective and zoomed out perspective. And yogic knowledge should give one the ability to zoom out. And I believe that if we zoom out, I think you've caught on to something. And I believe that if we zoom out, we can see our own place in history, which is hard to see from a zoomed in perspective. But if you can zoom out, you can see we're in a very unique place in history. I believe it. I have real faith in it. And that is that if you look at even the history of spirituality and how it's unfolded around the world and how it's unfolded in India, you see the great sage Vyasa, who compiled all of the Vedic literature. He compiled it in 3 different sections, or you could say 3 different stages that go from what's called karma to jnana to bhakti. From doing good works in this world to reap good material benefits, to letting go of material things in this world and trying to become free of its control over us, and then ultimately to divine love. That this is a path of progress, a path of evolution that the individual commonly goes through. Commonly, we learn how to be successful materially. We taste material success. We realize that it's lacking. We begin to let go of the material things and we attain some peace, but we realize there's still something missing. And then we move on to the platform of divine love. That's the natural path of evolution. But we see that evolution not only in the Vedic literature of India, we see it in Christianity, we see it in Judaism, we see it in Buddhism, we see it the same path, the same course of evolution in all the spiritual paths. But not only there, we see it in the Vedic cosmology. We see that there's the material realm, which is the realm of karma. There's the Brahma Jyoti, the kind of the oneness, the realm of divine light, which is the realm of jnana. And then there's the Vaikuntha, the spiritual realm of divine love. So we see that same progression there. We also see it historically. We can see it unfold historically in the history of India. That if we go back many thousands of years, we have what they call the Vedic age, which was an age of performing the Vedic sacrifices to cultivate good karma. And that age got replaced by Buddhism and by Advaita Vedanta, both, which were both jnanic paths of letting go of all the material things, but not connecting with love. But then we see about 1,000 years ago, powerful bhakti yoga proponents of Vedanta began to explain, go deeper. You haven't gone deep enough into it yet. If you go deeper into Vedanta, you see that love starts to come out of it. And they began to really promote that, and they sent a wave of bhakti across India. Great teachers like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and others. And then about 500 years ago, there was another powerful wave of bhakti yoga. A really powerful wave, with great, powerful figures like Sri Chaitanya, Vallabha. You hear people like Mirabai. There's so many names, Tukaram. There's so many names that come. And in that time, because we think of India as one country, but it's really many, many different countries in one, with many different languages. And at that time, the teachings of bhakti were being presented in all the different local vernaculars. And another thing really came out with that wave of bhakti was the recognition that's taught in the highest texts like the Srimad Bhagavatam, that devotion or love overrides all other considerations. It doesn't matter what family you were born in, what caste you were born in, what gender you were born in, what race you were born in, what area you were born in. If you have devotion, it overrides all material considerations. That's the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that came out very powerful in this 500 year ago wave, where we saw people from the lower caste became elevated to being recognized as the greatest saints. Right? This was like a really powerful and important shift. And it's that shift that enabled it to 500 years later to spread to the whole world, where people had no access of it, no birth connection to it, no culture supporting it, that in many sense their whole background was diametrically opposed to it, but they were able to be given it. So we're living at the time when it broke out of India and went to the West. And it's also the time where the material technology is also taken off, so it can spread very quickly. And there's a wisdom in the bhakti tradition, and there's a beauty in the bhakti culture that satisfies a lot of the issues that people in the West have with their own religions. Right? That their own religions become vehicles of oppression, or cold, stagnant, or the vision of God is seen as a controller and a judge. There's heavy amounts of guilt that are taught through it, and they've lost interest in these religions and these conceptions of God, and they're finding within the bhakti tradition a very beautiful conception of God, a very beautiful theology with an incredibly powerful philosophy, a philosophy how we can understand I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, my thoughts, my depression, my confusion, that's just my mind. I can look at it as a witness. So it's got beautiful culture, beautiful theology, beautiful philosophy, beautiful culture. And so I think we're at an age, we can see it bubbling, we can see it beginning to crack, that a beautiful wave of bhakti can spread around the whole world. And we can watch it unfold in our own lifetime. And you are part of it, right? Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that wraps it up for tonight. It's been a real joy spending this evening with you. We're here every night. Sometimes my friend Yogi Charu will come here in the evening, maybe a little earlier. Like I'm coming at 7. He may come a little bit earlier, like at 6:30 or so. He can share what he calls mental hygiene. You've heard of dental hygiene. This is mental hygiene, right? How the daily practices one could do to keep the mind very pure. He's really expert at this. He's like no other yogi you've ever met. He's giving yoga and meditation classes in the morning at 8 o'clock in the hall. I highly recommend them. I follow that up with a class on yoga and bhakti discussion and philosophy. And then there's Kirtan and other programs going on all day. And now I recommend you get some of this wonderful prasadam. This will change your life. Kirtan will change your life. The philosophy will change your life. The prasadam will change your life. And then go back in these kirtans toward the end of the night. Madhava leads, and it is always you take off to the spiritual universe in these kirtans. Thank you all so very much. Been a joy to be with you. Hari Om Tat Sat.